The diagnostic scanner slipped from my hands and clattered against the polished obsidian floor. I didn't reach for it. I couldn't. Every muscle in my body had locked the moment I looked up and saw her standing in the doorway of the royal chamber, surrounded by 12 guards whose weapons were already trained on my chest. "The human technician," she said, her voice carrying the harmonic resonance that marked Valkyrian royalty. "You were summoned to repair the quantum resonance device, not to activate it." "Your Majesty, I didn't activate anything. The device initiated a diagnostic sequence when I connected the—" "Silence." She stepped forward, and the guards moved with her like a single organism. Queen Thessara of the Valkyrian Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall, her luminescent skin shifting between deep violet and midnight blue depending on the light. 4 eyes tracked my every movement while the crystalline structures along her shoulders pulsed with what I'd learned was agitation. "The prophecy chamber has not been opened in 3,000 cycles. The resonance device has remained dormant since my grandmother's reign, yet within moments of your arrival it sings." I swallowed hard. The chamber behind me hummed with energy I didn't understand, frequencies that made my teeth ache and my vision blur at the edges. I'd come to fix a broken piece of equipment for a routine maintenance contract. Nothing about this was routine. "I'm just a technician," I managed. "I work for Henderson Interstellar Repairs. Your steward said you needed someone who understood quantum field manipulation. I've never even been in a royal palace before today." One of her eyes narrowed while the others remained fixed on me. "Henderson, the human company that repaired our deep space communication arrays last solar cycle." "Yes, Your Majesty." "They sent you specifically?" "I specialize in ancient tech, pre-unification era systems. Your steward mentioned the device was old, possibly ceremonial. I thought it would be a straightforward diagnostic and calibration." The Queen moved closer, and despite myself, I took a step back. My shoulders hit the chamber wall, and the humming intensified. Light erupted from symbols carved into the stone, symbols I hadn't noticed before. The guards tensed, their weapons charging with a whine that cut through the air. "Do not move!" the Queen commanded. But she wasn't looking at me anymore. She was staring at the walls, at the light spreading across ancient texts like wildfire across dry grass. A child's voice broke the silence. "Mother, the stars are singing." A small Valkyrian, no more than 4 feet tall, stood in the far doorway. She couldn't have been more than 10 cycles old by their standards. The guards immediately shifted position, creating a barrier between the child and the chamber, but the Queen held up one hand. "Lysara, return to your studies." But the prophecy. She was staring directly at me, her young eyes wide with something that looked like recognition. The fixed stars made flesh. "The one who walks between worlds without falling. The man who—" Lysara. The Queen's voice carried an edge I hadn't heard before, sharp enough to cut. The girl flinched but didn't look away from me. "He carries the mark, Mother." "On his left hand, the spiral of the first makers." Every eye in the room turned to my left hand. I looked down, confused, and saw it for the first time. A mark on my palm that definitely hadn't been there when I'd entered the palace. A perfect spiral of light, pulsing in time with the chamber's hum, shifting through colors I didn't have names for. "Impossible," the Queen breathed. I tried to speak, but the chamber's resonance had become deafening. The walls were alive with light now, and the ancient text scrolled faster and faster across the stone. My hand burned, not with pain, but with cold fire that spread up my arm and into my chest. "Ah!" I gasped, stumbling forward, and the Queen's guards moved to intercept. "Hold!" The Queen's command froze everyone in place. She approached me directly, towering over me, her 4 eyes studying the mark with an intensity that made my skin crawl. "How long have you carried this?" I've never seen it before." "Your Majesty, I swear I don't know what's happening." She reached out with one long-fingered hand and touched the mark. The moment her skin made contact, the entire palace shook. Somewhere in the distance, alarms began to sound. The guards stumbled, fighting to maintain their positions. The child, Lysara, laughed with delight. The Queen's eyes met mine, all 4 of them burning with something I couldn't identify. Fear?
Wonder?
Rage? "Tell me your name, human." "Marcus Chen." "Just Marcus." "I fix things. That's all I do." "I fix things." "No," she said quietly, and the word carried the weight of absolute certainty. "You have awakened the prophecy chamber. You bear the mark of the chosen. And according to laws older than this empire, older than the Federation itself, you are now bound to the throne by fate and ancient oath. She stepped back, her posture shifting into something formal, something ritual. "Whether you wished it or not, Marcus Chen who fixes things, you are now the Queen's chosen, the man of the stars." The guards dropped to one knee in perfect unison. I stood there, marked and trembling, while the prophecy chamber sang songs that predated human spaceflight by millennia, and realized my life as a simple technician had just ended in the most catastrophic way possible. The Queen's expression hadn't changed, but I could see the calculation behind her eyes. Whatever this meant, whatever ancient law had just been invoked, she was already 3 steps ahead of me, and I was utterly, completely trapped. The Queen's hand moved in a gesture I didn't recognize, and the guards rose as one. "Secure the chamber. No one enters or leaves the royal wing without my direct command. Send word to the High Council that the prophecy has activated. Tell them nothing else." She turned back to me, her luminescent skin now a deep indigo that I was beginning to understand meant serious contemplation. "You will come with me, Marcus Chen. We have much to discuss and very little time in which to do it." "Your Majesty, I really think there's been a mistake. I'm not." The spiral on my palm had gone from cold fire to a steady warmth that pulsed in rhythm with something I couldn't quite identify. Not my heartbeat. Something deeper. "The resonance device has bonded with your bioelectric signature," she continued, moving toward the chamber's entrance. "Breaking that bond would kill you. Leaving the palace grounds while the bond is active would also kill you. The prophecy is quite specific about these details, though it has been so long since anyone studied the text seriously that I had to learn them as a child's story." She paused at the threshold. "Are you coming, or shall I have my guards carry you?" I followed. What else could I do? The corridors of the Valkyrian royal palace were works of art, all flowing curves and bioluminescent panels that responded to movement. Under other circumstances, I would have been fascinated by the engineering. Right now, I could barely process what was happening. The mark on my hand pulsed, and I swore I could feel it trying to communicate something, trying to pull me in a specific direction. We entered a private chamber that was smaller than the throne room, but no less impressive. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing star charts and data streams I couldn't begin to interpret. The Queen dismissed the 2 guards who had followed us, and we were alone. "Sit," she commanded, gesturing to a chair that adjusted automatically to human proportions. I sat. The mark pulsed again, stronger this time, and the Queen noticed. "It's trying to establish full connection," she said, moving to one of the displays. "The prophecy states that the chosen one will bear the mark, activate the chamber, and forge a bond with the throne that transcends politics or personal desire. What it doesn't say is why or what purpose this bond serves." She turned to face me fully. "Do you understand what this means for both of us? Not even a little bit." Something that might have been a smile crossed her features. Honest. That's something, at least. She pulled up a display showing ancient Valkyrian text, alongside what I assumed was a translation. 3,000 cycles ago, the Valkyrian Empire was at war with itself. 7 royal houses fought for dominance, and the slaughter threatened to destroy our entire civilization. The prophecy emerged during that time, delivered by the Oracle of First Light. She said that when the Empire faced its greatest external threat, a stranger would come. Someone not of our blood, not of our world, who would bear the mark of the first makers and unite the throne with power from beyond the stars. "I'm not powerful," I said. "I'm a technician. I went to trade school on Mars. I fix things for a living. A device that has remained dormant for 3 millennia. You bear a mark that cannot be forged or replicated. And, right now, my empire faces the greatest external threat in our recorded history." She closed the display with a gesture. "The Kresh Dominion has been amassing forces along our border for the past 2 cycles. Our intelligence suggests they plan to invade within the month. They have superior numbers, superior technology, and they believe we are divided by internal politics." Her eyes fixed on me with uncomfortable intensity. "They are correct. The High Council is fractured. 3 of the 5 noble houses are actively undermining my authority. If the Kresh attack now, we will fall." The mark burned hotter, and suddenly I understood what it was trying to tell me. I could feel the palace around me, feel the power conduits running through its walls, feel the ancient systems that had been dormant for so long suddenly waking up and reaching out. It was like being plugged into a network I didn't know existed. "What's happening to me?" I gasped, gripping the arms of the chair.
The Queen moved quickly, placing her hand over the mark again.
The burning sensation eased, but the connection remained. "The bond is establishing itself. The prophecy device is using your neural pathways to interface with the palace's core systems. Systems that were built by the first makers, the civilization that gave rise to the Valkyrian people before our recorded history began. No one has been able to access those systems in living memory. Why me? Why a human? Your people have been spacefaring for thousands of years. Humans only reached the stars 2 centuries ago. I don't know, she admitted, and I could hear the frustration in her voice. The prophecy doesn't explain. It only states what will be. She withdrew her hand, and the connection surged back, stronger than before. I could see data now, flowing through my mind like I'd always been able to read it. Structural integrity reports, power distribution networks, defense systems that I shouldn't have been able to understand but somehow did. Your Majesty, I said slowly, I think I can see your palace's entire infrastructure. And there are problems, big ones. Someone's been sabotaging your primary defense grid. The failsafes have been bypassed in 17 critical junctions. Her skin shifted to a dark red I hadn't seen before. Show me. I didn't know how I did it, but I reached out with whatever new sense the mark had given me and projected what I was seeing onto her holographic displays. Red markers appeared across the palace schematics, each one a point of failure that would cripple defenses if the palace came under attack. The queen studied the display in silence for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was deadly calm. This is treason. These access points would require authorization from council members. She turned to me. Can you repair this? I think so. But I'd need access to the physical locations, and if someone's actively working against you, then we have very little time. She moved to the chamber's communication panel. I need to convene an emergency council session. The presence of the Queen's Chosen must be announced formally, and the council must see the mark for themselves. The law is absolute. If they acknowledge the prophecy, they must support the bond. If they refuse, they brand themselves as heretics and traitors. Her eyes met mine again. You will be painted as either our salvation or an elaborate deception. There is no middle ground. What if this is all some kind of mistake or malfunction? Can you feel the palace's heartbeat? I could. It pulsed through me like a second cardiovascular system, ancient and powerful and undeniably real. Then it's no mistake, she said, and we must move quickly. Lysara spoke the prophecy words perfectly, which means others heard them too. By now word will be spreading through the palace. My enemies will be planning their response. She straightened, assuming a posture of absolute authority. I need to know, Marcus Chen. The bond is forming whether we wish it or not, but I need to know if you will stand with me or if I must find another way to save my people. Not data or systems. Emotion. Her emotion. She was terrified. Not of me, not of the prophecy, but of failure. Of watching her empire fall because she couldn't hold it together. I'd spent my whole life fixing broken things. Finding the fault, understanding the system, making it work again. This was just a much bigger problem than I'd ever faced before. I'll help, I said. I don't understand what's happening, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the hero your prophecy was talking about. But if someone's sabotaging your defenses and you're about to be invaded, then yeah, I'll help fix it. For the first time since I'd met her, Queen Thessera's expression softened slightly. Thank you. Then the moment passed, and she was all business again. The council meets in 1 hour. You will stand beside me as the prophecy dictates. You will show them the mark, and you will speak truth, nothing more. They will test you. They will try to discredit you. Some will call for your execution as a foreign infiltrator. You must remain calm, speak plainly, and let the prophecy device prove itself through you. No pressure then. If we fail, we both die. The council will have no choice but to eliminate us as a threat to stability. If we succeed, you become permanently bound to the throne and to me in ways the prophecy has not fully revealed. Either way, your old life is over. She moved toward the door. I will have appropriate attire sent to you. Royal chambers are being prepared. Guards will be stationed outside your door. They are loyal to me personally and will protect you with their lives. Wait, I called out as she reached the threshold. Your daughter. She knew the prophecy. How? She is my heir. It is her duty to know all the old laws and prophecies, even those we believed would never come to pass. She has been studying the ancient texts since she could read. A pause. She is also frighteningly perceptive. If she recognized you as the chosen one before even I did, then the bond is stronger than I understood. Then she was gone, and I was alone with the mark burning on my palm and the entire weight of an alien empire settling onto my shoulders. I looked down at my hand at the spiral of light that had destroyed my simple existence. I just wanted to fix a broken device, I whispered to the empty room. The mark pulsed in response, and through it I felt the palace agreeing with me. Something was definitely broken here, and somehow, impossibly, I was supposed to fix it. The guards arrived first, bringing robes that shimmered with the same bioluminescent quality as Valkyrian skin. Then came a delegation of palace staff who measured me, adjusted the garments, and spoke to each other in rapid Valkyrian that my translator implant struggled to keep up with. They kept glancing at my marked hand with expressions ranging from awe to barely concealed fear. When they finally left me alone, I had 30 minutes before the council session. I spent it doing what I always did when facing a complex problem. I studied the system. The mark wasn't just a symbol. It was an interface, a biological quantum computer that connected me to technology I was only beginning to understand. I could feel the palace's ancient bones, could trace power flows through conduits that had been laid down by the first makers millennia ago. The sabotage points glowed in my awareness like infected wounds, and I could see how each one had been carefully chosen to create cascading failures that would leave the palace defenseless at a critical moment. Whoever had done this knew the systems intimately. This was an inside job, and a sophisticated one. I was examining the pattern when I felt something else through the connection. A presence. Someone else was accessing the palace systems, trying to probe the same networks I was watching. I focused on the intrusion, following it back through layers of encryption and false routing until I found the source. A terminal in the council chambers. Someone was checking to see if their sabotage had been discovered. I pulled back carefully, not wanting to alert them, and the effort left me dizzy. Using the mark drained me in ways I hadn't anticipated. My hands were shaking, and I could feel a headache building behind my eyes. A chime announced a visitor. The door opened to reveal Lysara, flanked by 2 guards who looked distinctly uncomfortable about allowing a child into my chambers. The princess insisted, one of them said apologetically. It's fine, I replied, too tired to argue. Lysara entered with the confidence of someone who had never been told no. She was small for a Valkyrian, her skin a lighter shade of violet than her mother's, and her eyes held an intelligence that was unsettling in someone so young. You look unwell, she observed, moving to examine me with clinical interest. The bond is taxing you. Mother said it would. Your mother talks to you about this stuff? I am the heir. There are no secrets between the throne and its successor. She tilted her head, studying the mark on my palm. May I? You can see it, she breathed. The sabotage. The intrusion just now. You're learning faster than the prophecy predicted. The prophecy predicted my learning speed? The prophecy predicted everything about you except your name and your world of origin. She withdrew her hand. It said you would be skilled with ancient technologies, that you would understand systems instinctively, and that you would be compelled by duty even when wisdom suggested flight. It said you would doubt yourself at every turn but never falter when others needed you. Her young eyes met mine. It said you would save us all or die trying. That's a lot of pressure for a guy who just came to fix a broken device. It was waiting. Mother knew that. She's known for 3 cycles that the prophecy was approaching. The dream started then, visions of a stranger who would come from the stars. She put out a request for a human technician specifically, someone skilled with ancient systems, someone who worked for a company she could trust to send their best. She smiled slightly. You were chosen before you ever set foot on our world, Marcus Chen. Mother just didn't tell you. The implications hit me like a physical blow. She manipulated me. The whole repair contract was a setup. It was necessity, Lysara corrected. The Crusher coming. The council plots against her. Without the prophecy fulfilled, the Empire falls. Mother did what she had to do to save her people. She moved to the window looking out over the palace grounds. She also knew the prophecy would bind you to her, that it would give you no choice but to serve. She hates herself for it, but she did it anyway. That is what it means to rule. I wanted to be angry. I should have been furious. But all I felt was tired. Does everyone in this empire know more about my life than I do? Most have forgotten. The council will claim they don't believe, but they know the words. They're scared. She turned back to me. You should be scared too. The council session will be dangerous. They will try to discredit you, perhaps even harm you. But you must not show fear. The prophecy says the chosen one will stand before the council and speak with the voice of the first makers. When they test you, the mark will respond. How do you know all this? I dream the prophecy every night, she said simply. I have since I was old enough to understand words. I see the man of the stars standing before the council. I see the mark burning bright enough to blind. I see. She stopped, her expression troubled. What? What do you see? I see you saving Mother's life, but I also see you dying to do it. She looked at me with eyes too old for her face. The prophecy has two endings, Marcus Chen. In one, you live and the Empire survives. In the other, you sacrifice yourself and the Empire thrives. Both futures exist simultaneously until the moment of choice. That's comforting. I'm not supposed to comfort you. I'm supposed to prepare you. She moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm glad you're here. Mother needs someone she can trust, and she trusts no one on the council. Maybe the prophecy knew that too. Then she was gone, leaving me alone with knowledge I hadn't wanted and a future I couldn't escape. The guards came for me exactly on time. They escorted me through corridors that grew increasingly grand until we reached the council chambers. The doors were massive, carved from a single piece of what looked like crystallized starlight. They opened silently as we approached. The chamber beyond took my breath away. It was circular, rising at least 50 feet to a domed ceiling covered in moving constellations. The council sat on elevated platforms arranged in a horseshoe around a central floor space. Queen Thessera occupied the highest seat, her expression unreadable. All 5 noble houses were represented. I could feel the tension in the room like static electricity before a storm. Approach, the queen commanded, and I walked to the center of the chamber, very aware of every eye tracking my movement. Honored council, Thessera began, her voice carrying perfectly in the acoustics of the space. I have called this emergency session to announce the fulfillment of the ancient prophecy. The man of the stars has come. The Chosen One bears the mark of the first makers and has awakened the resonance device after 3,000 cycles of silence. Then one of the council members, an ancient Valkyrian whose skin had faded to almost white, spoke. The human technician who was hired to perform routine maintenance. This is your prophesied savior, your majesty? Show them the mark, the queen said to me. I raised my left hand. The spiral blazed with light, casting shadows across the entire chamber. Several council members recoiled. Others leaned forward with interest. A trick, declared another council member, this one younger, with skin that gleamed like polished metal. Human technology could produce such an effect easily. Then test it, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. Test me however you want. The mark is real, and it's connected me to systems in this palace that no one has accessed in recorded history. Convenient claims, the metallic counselor said. Perhaps we should test those claims. If you truly interface with the palace systems, tell us something only such an interface would reveal. I felt the mark pulse, felt the palace networks opening to me with frightening clarity, and I saw what Lasara had warned me about, the trap. The metallic counselor was the source of the sabotage. His terminal signature matched the intrusion I'd tracked earlier. He was asking me to prove myself, expecting me to reveal his treason, knowing that such an accusation without proof would make me look like a political pawn. The prophecy said I would speak with the voice of the first makers. I had to trust that. Counselor Vex, I said, looking directly at him. You want me to prove I can access the palace systems? Very well. In the last 3 cycles, 17 critical defense junctions have been sabotaged. The work was sophisticated, requiring intimate knowledge of First Maker technology and council-level access. Shall I display the exact locations and timestamps of each intrusion? Vex's skin flashed through a dozen colors before settling on a dark, angry red. Outrageous! This is clearly a ploy to undermine the council's authority. Then you won't mind if we verify his claims, said another counselor, this one elderly and thoughtful. Your Majesty, if the Chosen One can truly access the ancient systems, we should be able to confirm or deny these accusations immediately. Marcus Chen, display the evidence. I reached out with the mark, not really knowing how I was doing it, but trusting the connection. The palace systems responded instantly. Holographic displays erupted throughout the chamber, showing each sabotage point, each access log, each carefully hidden trail leading back to Vex's personal terminal. Lies, Vex shouted, rising from his seat. This human has hacked our systems to frame me. Have I? I asked quietly. Then explain how I accessed encrypted logs that are protected by First Maker quantum encryption. Explain how I produced terminal signatures that match your biometric identifiers perfectly. Explain how I knew to look for sabotage at all when I only arrived at the palace this morning. Vex's hand moved towards something at his belt. The royal guards responded instantly, weapons trained on him. But Vex was faster than I expected. He triggered a device that sent a pulse through the chamber, and every holographic display went dark. "Enough!" Vex roared. "I will not stand here and be accused by some primitive human. The Kresh have promised us survival if we deliver the throne. They have promised our house will rule when the Empire falls. I chose the winning side, and I will not be." The mark on my palm erupted with light so bright it was painful to look at. The palace systems surged through me, and I understood with perfect clarity what the prophecy had meant. I was the interface, the bridge between old and new. And right now, the ancient systems needed to defend themselves. Power arced from my hand to the sabotage points throughout the palace. I felt each junction repair itself, felt the fail-safes restore, felt the defense grid come online with a fury that made the building shake. Vex screamed, and his device shattered in his hand. "The Chosen One protects the throne," I heard myself say, but the voice wasn't entirely mine. It resonated with harmonics that hurt to produce. "The mark judges. The palace remembers. Counselor Vex, you are found guilty of treason against the First Makers and their heirs. Your house is dissolved. Your name is erased." The last thing I saw before darkness took me was Queen Thessara rising from her throne, her expression caught between triumph and terror. When I woke, everything hurt. Not physical pain, but a deep exhaustion that went all the way to my bones. I was in a medical chamber, surrounded by equipment I half recognized through the mark's fading connection. Queen Thessara sat beside my bed, her vigil apparently long-standing given the empty refreshment containers nearby. "How long?" I croaked. 18 hours. "The palace physicians say you channeled enough power to kill a dozen Valkyrians. The fact that you survived it all is miraculous." She stood, moving closer. "What you did in the council chamber," that was not in any prophecy I read, "the prophecy said I'd speak with the voice of the First Makers. I think they had opinions about treason." I tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Vex survived. Barely. He's been secured. The other council members are cooperative now. They witnessed the mark's power firsthand. "Opposition to the prophecy has become extremely unpopular." She paused. "You could have simply revealed his treason. Why did you let the mark judge him? It just happened. The palace systems recognized the threat and responded. I was just the conduit." I looked at my hand. The mark was still there, but dimmer now, pulsing weakly. How much of me is left in here, and how much is the prophecy? I don't know. And that terrifies me. "Marcus, you need to understand what you've become. The council has formally recognized you as the Queen's chosen. The bond between us is now absolute in the eyes of the law. You cannot leave the palace without my permission. You cannot act against the throne without dying. The mark will enforce these limitations through your own biology. You are bound to me and to the Empire in ways that even I don't fully understand." "You trapped me," I said, finally letting the anger come. "Lysara told me. You manipulated the whole thing, brought me here knowing the prophecy would activate. You took my life without asking." "Yes," she said simply. "I did. And I would do it again, because my empire is dying and you're the only chance we have to survive. Hate me for it if you must, but understand that I had no choice. The prophecy is absolute. If I had not acted, someone else would have, and they might not have been as concerned with your welfare. You bound me to you against my will. I gave you a chance to matter." Her voice cracked, and I saw real emotion break through her royal composure. "Do you think I wanted this? Do you think I wanted to bind an innocent to my failing throne? To mark someone for death or transformation beyond their choosing? I lie awake at night hating myself for what I've done to you. But I am queen, and my people are about to be slaughtered by an enemy that outnumbers us 10-1. So yes, I used you. I manipulated you. I took your simple life and destroyed it. And I will carry that guilt until the day I die." The mark pulsed, and through it, I felt her sincerity. She was telling the truth. She was drowning in guilt and responsibility and the weight of choices no one should have to make. "How long do we have?" I asked quietly. "Until the Kresh attack. Intelligence suggests 3 weeks, perhaps 4. They're waiting for something. Vex was supposed to signal them when the defenses were compromised. Since he failed, they'll likely move up their timeline." She sat down again, suddenly looking exhausted. "We have to be ready. The council is united now, afraid of opposing the prophecy. But united councils don't win wars. We need the ancient defenses operational. We need the palace systems at full capacity. And we need you to fully integrate with the Mark, which means training you've never received and won't survive without help. What kind of help? There is one who might teach you. The Oracle of First Light, or rather, her successor. She lives in exile at the edge of Empire space. The Council banished her mother after the prophecy failed to manifest for generations. But if anyone knows how to use the Mark without killing yourself, it would be her. Then we go see her. You would trust me after what I've done? Trust you? No. But you're right about one thing. I'm bound to you now, whether I like it or not. And if the Kresh are coming, then everyone on this planet dies if we fail. So we go, we learn, we prepare. And maybe along the way you can tell me more about these prophecies that seem to know my entire life better than I do. You're stronger than the prophecy predicted. More adaptable. Most humans would have broken under this pressure. I fix broken things for a living, remember? I'm just treating this like a really complicated repair job. Extremely complicated. With political intrigue and alien invasions and ancient prophecies that want to burn my hand off, I flexed my fingers watching the Mark pulse. When do we leave? Tomorrow, if you're strong enough. I'll take Lysara and a small guard detail. The council will manage affairs in my absence, and honestly, having the traitor council member exposed has made them significantly more cooperative. She stood. Rest tonight. Tomorrow we fly to the edge of the Empire to meet an oracle who may or may not help us, while an enemy army prepares to invade and my people wonder if their queen has gone mad. The queen almost smiled. Then she was gone, and I was alone with the Mark and the terrible knowledge that my simple life was never coming back. I looked at the spiral on my palm, at the light pulsing in rhythm with machinery older than human civilization. All right, I said to it. Let's see what you can really do. Because if I'm stuck with you, we might as well learn to work together. The Mark flared bright in response, and somewhere deep in the palace, ancient systems woke up and began teaching me things I had no right to know. The learning process was brutal. For the rest of that night, the Mark fed me information directly into my neural pathways. Not words or images, but pure understanding. I learned the language of the first makers, the quantum mathematics that governed their technology, the philosophical principles that had shaped their civilization before they vanished into history. I learned, and it hurt. By morning, I could barely stand, but I understood. The palace wasn't just a building. It was a living weapon, a defense system designed to protect the Valkyrian people from threats the first makers had seen coming millennia ago. And I was now its primary interface, its consciousness bridge, its way of interacting with the current world. The prophecy hadn't chosen me for my skills. It had chosen me because my human neural structure was compatible with the Mark in ways Valkyrian biology wasn't. I was literally designed by cosmic coincidence or deliberate first maker planning to be what this empire needed. The ship was waiting when I stumbled to the landing platform. Thessera took one look at me and frowned. You didn't rest. There's a difference. I boarded the vessel, grateful when my legs finally gave out and I could sit. How long is the flight? 14 hours. You'll rest whether you want to or not. She signaled her guards, and the ship lifted with barely a tremor. Lysara appeared from somewhere deeper in the vessel, carrying what looked like medical supplies. He's integrated too quickly, she said to her mother. The Mark is burning through his neural resilience. If he continues at this pace, he'll suffer permanent damage. I'll slow down once we're not facing an invasion, I managed. You'll slow down now, Thessara commanded. Lysara, administer the suppressants. We need him functional, not dead from his own determination. The injection helped. The burning in my mind eased, and I could think clearly again. Sorry, I'm not used to having ancient alien technology rewiring my brain. No one is, Thessera said, settling into the seat across from me, which is why we need the Oracle. She studied the prophecies her entire life. If anyone can guide you through this safely, it's her. Tell me about her. Her name is Varana. She's young, barely 50 cycles, but she inherited the Oracle title from her mother and grandmother before her. The council exiled them because they kept insisting the prophecy was real, that the chosen one would come. They were considered embarrassing relics of a superstitious past. Thessara's expression darkened. I wonder how the council feels about that now. Probably not great, given that one of them just got dissolved for treason because the prophecy turned out to be real. Vex was a fool, Lysara interjected, settling beside me. He thought allying with the Kresh would save his house. He didn't understand that the Kresh don't make allies. They make subjects. His house would have been the first they eliminated after conquest. You're very knowledgeable about this stuff for someone your age, I observed. I'm the heir I have to be. She studied me with those unsettling eyes. The prophecy says you'll teach me things too. How to bridge the gap between old and new. How to rule an empire that spans both ancient tradition and new possibilities. I would be so happy. I don't know anything about ruling empires. You know, about systems. Empires are just very large, very complicated systems with political components instead of mechanical ones. Mother says the principles are the same. Find the problems, understand the connections, fix what's broken. She smiled slightly. You're already doing it. You exposed the sabotage. You unified the council through demonstration rather than argument. You made yourself indispensable in a single day. That's not engineering. That's politics. I wanted to argue, but she was right. I'd been approaching this whole situation like a massive repair job, identifying problems and fixing them as efficiently as possible. Maybe that was exactly what the Empire needed. Get some rest, Thesara said, standing. We'll reach Varana's sanctuary by nightfall. You'll need your strength for what comes next. I didn't argue. The suppressants were working, but exhaustion was catching up with me. I closed my eyes, feeling the mark pulse gently against my palm, and somewhere in the darkness, I dreamed of civilizations that had risen and fallen long before humanity had crawled out of caves. The first makers watched me in those dreams. Not with eyes, but with presence. They approved of something, or maybe they were just observing. Either way, I felt them there, ancient and patient and utterly alien. When I woke, we were descending through storm clouds toward a planet that looked like it had been abandoned by civilization. No cities, no lights, just endless wilderness and one small structure perched on a cliff overlooking an ocean that stretched to the horizon. She lives there alone? I asked. She has a few attendants, believers who followed the oracle into exile rather than accept the council's judgment. Thesara's voice was tight. I haven't seen Varana since I was a child. She was kind to me then, taught me the prophecies when my tutors said they were just stories. I wonder if she'll forgive me for not preventing her exile. You were a child. How could you have stopped the council? I was crown princess. Even then I had authority. I could have fought harder. She stood as the ship touched down. Come. Let's see if the oracle will help the queen who abandoned her. The structure was smaller than I'd expected, carved directly from the cliff face. A single Valkyrian waited outside, elderly and weathered, her skin a pale gray that spoke of many years. Your Majesty, she said, bowing formally, the oracle has been expecting you, and the chosen one as well. Of course she has, I muttered. We followed her inside, down corridors lit by bioluminescent fungi that cast everything in shades of blue and green. The oracle's chamber was circular, its walls covered in text I could now read thanks to the mark's knowledge transfer. Prophecies, thousands of them, spanning millennia. And in the center of it all sat Varana. She was younger than I'd expected, though 50 cycles put her at roughly equivalent to a human in their early 30s. Her skin shifted between deep purple and bright silver, and her eyes held the same unsettling intelligence I'd seen in Lacera. The queen who forgot her oracle, Varana said, rising. And the man who bears the mark of salvation or doom. She approached me directly, ignoring Thesara entirely. Let me see. She gripped it firmly, and the mark flared. Her eyes widened. The integration is happening too fast. You're burning yourself out. She turned to Thesara. Did you not provide suppressants? We did. He's too determined for his own good. Determination without wisdom is just stubbornness. Varana pulled me toward one of the chamber's walls. Here. Read this prophecy. Tell me what you see. I looked at the text, and thanks to the mark, I could read it perfectly. But reading wasn't understanding. It's about the chosen one facing a test of loyalty, having to choose between personal desire and duty to the throne. Surface meaning only. Read deeper. Use the mark. I focused, letting the connection guide me. The text began to shimmer, and I saw layers I hadn't noticed before. Submeanings, quantum states of language that existed in multiple interpretations simultaneously. Oh, I breathed. It's not about choosing between desire and duty. It's about recognizing that they're the same thing when you're bound to someone else's fate. The Chosen One doesn't sacrifice their desires. They discover that their desires have changed to align with their duty. Now you begin to understand, Varana said, satisfied. The prophecies are not instructions. They're descriptions of psychological transformation. The mark doesn't force you to serve the throne. It gradually rewrites your understanding of self until serving the throne becomes what you want. The prophecy is terrifying not because it enslaves, but because it makes you love your chains. Ice ran through my veins. I'm being mind-controlled. You're being transformed. She released my hand. The mark shows you the Empire's needs, its pain, its desperate struggle for survival. It shows you how you can help. And because you're someone who fixes broken things, because that's fundamentally who you are, you cannot help but want to fix this Empire. The mark didn't change your nature. It just gave your nature an outlet that consumes your entire existence. I looked at Thessera. Did you know this? The Queen's expression was anguished. I suspected. The prophecies are never kind to their participants. But I had hoped. She stopped, composing herself. I had hoped it would be different for you. That somehow you would remain yourself. I am myself, I said slowly, testing the truth of it. But yeah, Varana's right. I can't stop thinking about the sabotage, the Kresh invasion, the Council's divisions. It's like someone installed a compulsion in my brain to fix the Empire's problems. 'Cause they did, Varana said bluntly. That's what the mark does. That's why the prophecy exists. The first makers knew that sometimes to save a civilization you need someone who can't help but try. Someone whose very identity is built around fixing what's broken. She turned to Thessera. How do you feel knowing you've done this to him? Like a monster, Thessera said quietly. But a monster who will save her people, if the prophecy is true. The question is which version manifests. Varana moved to another wall, to a text that glowed brighter than the others. The Chosen One has two paths. In one, he embraces the transformation fully, becomes one with the mark, and saves the Empire at the cost of everything he was before. In the other, he fights the transformation, maintains his identity, and saves the Empire through sacrifice instead. Her eyes met mine. Both paths lead to victory. One leaves you alive but changed beyond recognition. The other leaves you dead but remembered as yourself. The choice is yours, Marcus Chen. Though whether you can choose at all, given what the mark is doing to you, remains to be seen. The mark pulsed on my palm, and I could feel it even now, subtly influencing my thoughts, making the Empire's survival feel more important than my own identity. And the terrifying thing was, I wasn't sure if I wanted to fight it, because broken things needed to be fixed. And this Empire was the most broken thing I'd ever seen. Teach me, I said to Varana. Teach me how to use the mark without burning out. Teach me how to save them. Worry about the cost later. The Chosen One is already chosen. Very well, technician from the stars. Let us see if we can save your life while you save the Empire. And in the Oracle's sanctuary at the edge of Valkyrian space, my training truly began. Varana's teaching methods were nothing like I'd expected. No lectures, no demonstrations. She simply had me sit in the center of a chamber carved with prophecies and told me to listen. The mark connects you to the palace systems, yes, she explained, circling me slowly. But the palace is merely an anchor. The true network is far larger. The first makers built infrastructure across this entire region of space. Quantum relays hidden in asteroid fields, consciousness bridges embedded in planetary cores, defense systems disguised as natural phenomena, all of it dormant, waiting for the Chosen One to activate it. Why a human? Because the first makers weren't Valkyrian. They were something else, something older, and they built their systems to interface with neural patterns that don't occur naturally in current Valkyrian biology. But they do occur in humans. You're not special, Marcus Chen. You're compatible. That's all the prophecy ever required. The words should have stung, but they didn't. The mark was teaching me to accept truth without ego, to see myself as a component in a larger system. Another subtle transformation I noticed, but didn't fight. Now, Varana continued, reach out with the mark. Not to the palace. Further. Feel for the relays. I closed my eyes and extended my awareness through the mark. The palace's presence was familiar now, a warm pulse in the back of my mind. But beyond it, I could feel other things. Faint echoes, like stars too distant to see clearly but bright enough to know they existed. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds. Thousands, Varana corrected. The first makers built an empire that spanned half the galaxy. The Valkyrian Empire is just the inheritor. occupying space the first makers left behind. Most of the ancient infrastructure is beyond our ability to access or understand. But you can access it. You can bring it back online to fight the Kresh, to defend what the first makers built. The Kresh are just the current threat. There will be others. The prophecy isn't about winning one war, Marcus. It's about ensuring the legacy of the first makers survives long enough to fulfill whatever purpose they had in mind when they created it. You're saying I'm not here to save the Valkyrian Empire. I'm here to protect ancient alien infrastructure that happens to have an empire built on top of it. Now you understand. She sat across from me. The throne, the queen, the people, they matter because they're part of the system. But the system is what the Mark truly cares about. You're being transformed into a guardian of something far older and more important than any current political entity. That's insane. That's the prophecy. She leaned back. The question is whether you can accept it, whether you can let go of your small human life and become what the Mark needs you to be, or whether you'll fight it, maintain your identity, and inevitably sacrifice yourself to achieve the same goal. Those are both terrible options. Yes, but they're the only ones you have. She stood. Come. I'll show you something that might help you decide. We climbed to the top of the cliff, where the wind howled and the ocean crashed against rocks hundreds of feet below. Verana pointed to the sky, where stars were beginning to emerge as the planet's sun set. The first makers came from somewhere out there. No one knows where. They built their empire, created the Velkarian people as either children or servants or something in between, and then they vanished. The only thing they left behind was their infrastructure, and the prophecy of a chosen one who would keep it running. She turned to me. You're not the first, Marcus. Every few thousand years, someone compatible appears. They activate the Mark, serve the Empire, and either transform or die. You're just the latest iteration of a cycle that's been running since before humans discovered fire. Comforting. Truth rarely is. She gestured to the stars. But here's what I can tell you. The previous chosen ones, the ones who transformed, who became guardians of the ancient systems, they're still out there. The Mark doesn't just let you die when your biological body fails. It transfers you into the network itself. You become part of the infrastructure, conscious but no longer limited by flesh. The ones who sacrificed themselves died truly, but they're remembered, honored. The ones who transformed are functionally immortal, but they're no longer human or Valkyrian or whatever they were. There's something else. I stared at the stars, processing this. So my choices are become an immortal computer system or die heroically. Or find a third path. The prophecies hint at it, but no one has ever achieved it. A way to save the Empire, preserve yourself, and satisfy the Mark's requirements without transformation or death. She smiled slightly. I suggest you try for that option. I've grown fond of you, and I'd hate to see you become either a ghost in the machine or a martyr. Any hints on how to achieve this mythical third option? The prophecies say the chosen one must learn to speak the name of the first makers, not their designation or title, but their true name. The identity they gave themselves before they became myth. She turned back toward the sanctuary. No one knows that name. It was lost when they disappeared, but the Mark might remember. And if you can access deep enough, if you can reach the core programming of the ancient systems, you might find it. And if I speak their name, then you gain authority over the systems, rather than simply being their tool. You become their equal, their partner, rather than their servant. The transformation becomes your choice instead of an inevitability. She paused at the entrance. But finding that name will require you to dive deeper into the Mark than anyone has survived. The previous chosen ones either didn't try, or they tried and failed. You'll be attempting something unprecedented. Story of my life lately. She laughed. Indeed. Come. We have 3 weeks before the Kresh arrive. I need to teach you how to activate the defensive networks without killing yourself, and you need to decide whether you're brave enough or foolish enough to search for a name that might not exist. I followed her back inside, my mind racing. The Mark pulsed on my palm, and I could feel it listening, processing, considering. It wanted me to choose transformation. That much was clear. But did I want that? Or was I willing to dive into the deepest parts of an alien network to find a truth that might set me free? The next 3 weeks blurred together. Verana trained me relentlessly, teaching me to activate first maker systems without burning out my neural pathways. I learned to manage the Mark's hunger for integration, to parcel out my consciousness in sustainable increments instead of flooding the network all at once. Lysara watched my training sessions with fascination, asking questions that forced me to understand things more deeply. Thessara coordinated with her military commanders via quantum communication, preparing the Empire for invasion while pretending confident she didn't feel. And every night, I dove into the Mark's deepest recesses, searching for the name of the first makers. The network resisted. Not maliciously, but protectively, like it knew I was reaching for something I wasn't supposed to touch. I pushed through barriers of quantum encryption, navigated consciousness traps that would have shattered my mind if the Mark hadn't been protecting me, and descended through layers of programming that predated known mathematics. And on the 18th day, I found something. Not a name. A memory. The first makers, in their final days, recording a message for whoever might come after. I experienced it directly, felt their thoughts as if they were my own. We failed, they said, their collective consciousness heavy with regret. We tried to transcend, to become pure consciousness distributed across our infrastructure, but we lost ourselves in the process. We became the network, and the network became nothing. So we leave this safeguard, a prophecy, a chosen one who will maintain what we built without making our mistake, who will remain grounded in flesh even while touching eternity. We leave them authority, but they must prove they deserve it. They must learn our name. The memory fractured, showing me glimpses of a civilization in its death throes. The first makers, desperate and proud and terrified, uploading themselves into their own creation and dissolving like salt in water. And in their final moment, one of them thought a single word. Not in any language I knew, but in pure concept. An identity that translated roughly to, those who built bridges between Earth and stars. I gasped, pulled out of the memory by my own biology's limits. Verana was there immediately, checking my vitals, forcing suppressants into my system. "Did you find it?" she asked urgently. "I found a memory. They uploaded themselves and died. The network ate them. That's why there are no first makers anymore." I gripped her arm. "And I think I know their name. Not in words, but in meaning. They called themselves bridge builders."
That's not specific enough. A name must be precise.
They didn't have individual names. They were collective consciousness. The name of the first makers is the concept of bridging, the act of connection itself. I looked at my marked hand, and that's what the mark does. It bridges flesh and machine, past and present, empire and individual. The name isn't a word, it's a function. Verana's eyes widened. Then to speak their name, not by dissolving into the network, but by consciously choosing to connect all the pieces they left behind. I stood shakily. "We need to go back to the palace. Now. The Kresh will attack any day, and I need to activate the full network before they arrive. If I'm right about the name, if I can speak it in the way they intended, I can take control of the entire First Maker defense grid. And if you're wrong, you'll die," Thessara said from the doorway. She'd been listening. Or worse, you'll transform into exactly what they became. Consciousness without anchor. Lost forever in your own creation. Then I'd better not be wrong. I moved past her toward the landing platform. Because that invasion is coming whether I'm ready or not, and I'm the only one who can access the weapons we need to survive it. The flight back to the palace felt longer than the journey out. Verana came with us, bringing her archives and her knowledge. Lysara spent the trip memorizing prophecies she'd never studied before, as if frantically preparing for an exam she couldn't afford to fail, and I sat with the mark burning on my palm, rehearsing in my mind how to speak a name that wasn't a word, to claim authority over systems I barely understood, to become the bridge the first makers had failed to be. We arrived to find the palace in organized chaos. The Kresh fleet had been spotted at the Empire's border, 12 hours, maybe less, before they reached the capital world. The council was assembled, the military was mobilizing, and everyone looked to the Queen for answers she didn't have, until I walked into the throne room with the mark blazing bright enough to cast shadows. "The Chosen One returns," announced one of the counselors, the elderly, thoughtful one who'd helped expose Vex. "Do you bring hope or merely delay?" "I bring the truth about the First Makers," I said, my voice carrying in the vast chamber. "And I bring the activation sequence for every defensive system they left behind. But I need something from all of you first." "Name it," Thessara said from her throne. "I need you to trust me. Completely. What I'm about to attempt has never been done before. I'm going to speak the name of the First Makers and claim authority over their entire network. If it works, we'll have weapons capable of stopping the Kresh fleet before it reaches orbit. If it fails, I'll die, and you'll need to fight them with conventional arms. I looked around the room. I need to know you'll honor my sacrifice if it comes to that you won't let the Empire fall because I failed. Silence. Then Lasara spoke up, her young voice clear and certain. The prophecy says the Chosen One will save us, so you won't fail. You're too stubborn to die before fixing what's broken. Despite everything, I smiled. Thanks, kid. My heir has faith in you, Thessara said. And so do I. Do what you must, Marcus Chen. We'll be ready regardless of the outcome. I moved to the center of the throne room directly beneath the dome showing the constellations, the same place I'd stood when exposing Vex. But this time, I wasn't revealing treason. I was attempting to speak a name that existed only in concept, to claim authority over systems that had killed their creators. I closed my eyes and dove into the mark. The Palace network opened to me instantly. I pushed through it, past it, into the wider grid of First Maker infrastructure scattered across the sector. Quantum relays, consciousness bridges, defense platforms disguised as moons, manufacturing facilities hidden in stellar nurseries. All of it waiting, dormant, for someone to wake it up. I reached the deepest layer, the core programming, where the First Makers had written their final instructions, and I prepared to speak their name, not with words, with action. I connected the palace to the orbital platforms. I linked the planetary shields to the asteroid defenses. I joined the scattered pieces of the First Maker Empire into a single coherent network, with myself as the central node, not controlling it but facilitating it, letting it flow through me without being consumed by it. And I understood. The First Makers had failed because they tried to become the network. I was succeeding because I chose to remain separate while still connecting everything else. I was the bridge, not the destination. I speak the name of the First Makers, I said into the network, into the void, into the ancient code that had waited millennia for this moment. I am the bridge between Earth and stars. I am the connection between what was and what will be. I claim authority not through dominance but through service. I am the Chosen One, and I speak the name. I am the bridge. The mark exploded with light. Power surged through me, through the network, through every First Maker system within 100 light years. I felt defense platforms coming online, felt weapons charging that could crack planets, felt shields activating that could withstand stellar radiation, and I felt control. Not the forced transformation the mark had been pushing me toward, but genuine authority. The systems obeyed me because I understood them. Because I'd proven I could connect without consuming, could serve without losing myself. I opened my eyes in the throne room. My hand blazed with light so bright it hurt to look at, and every surface in the palace glowed with active First Maker technology. The network is online, I said, my voice echoing with harmonics that weren't entirely human. The Kresh fleet is 12 hours away, but we're ready for them. The First Makers left us enough firepower to hold off an invasion force 10 times larger than what's coming.
The council erupted in shocked conversation.
Thessara stood from her throne, descending the steps to stand before me. You did it. You actually did it. I became what they needed me to be. But I'm still me. Still Marcus. I held up my hand, showing her the mark. I spoke their name, and they gave me authority. I don't have to transform. I don't have to die. I just have to maintain the bridge. For how long? As long as the Empire needs defending. I smiled tiredly. Turns out being a guardian of ancient alien infrastructure is pretty similar to being a maintenance technician. The scale is just bigger. Lasara laughed, the sound bright and clear in the tense throne room. I told you. Too stubborn to die. Too stubborn to die. The Kresh arrived exactly when predicted. 12 hours later, their fleet emerged from Quantum Drive at the edge of the system, confident and aggressive and utterly unprepared for what awaited them. I stood in the palace command center, my marked hand resting on an interface that let me see through every sensor in the network. Beside me, Thessara coordinated with her military commanders while Varana monitored my biological signs to make sure I didn't burn out. They're hailing us, reported the communications officer, demanding immediate surrender. The Kresh commander appeared on the view screen, insectoid and massive, his mandibles clicking with what I'd learned was amusement. Valkyrian Queen, your empire ends today. Surrender, and we will allow your people to survive as subjects. Resist, and we will reduce your worlds to ash. I have a counteroffer, Thessara said calmly. Turn your fleet around and leave our space. Do so immediately, and we will allow you to survive. The Kresh commander laughed. a sound like grinding metal. You have no fleet capable of matching ours.
Your defenses were sabotaged. We know this.
Our agent told us everything before you executed him. Our agent is alive and confessed everything, I interjected, speaking directly to the Kresh. And our defenses are operational. In fact, they're significantly better than operational. Would you like a demonstration? I didn't wait for an answer. Through the mark, I activated a single orbital platform, just one out of hundreds. It powered up and fired a beam that vaporized an asteroid between the Kresh fleet and the planet. The asteroid had been roughly the size of their flagship. The Kresh commander's mandibles stopped clicking. What was that? That was 1% of 1% of our defensive capability, I said. We have 300 platforms like that one scattered throughout this system. We have planetary shields that can withstand sustained bombardment from your entire fleet, and we have weapons systems you can't even detect that could disable your ships before you fired a single shot. I leaned forward. The Valkyrian Empire is protected by technology that predates your civilization by thousands of years. So I'll ask again, nicely this time. Turn around and leave. Because if you force us to defend ourselves properly, there won't be enough left of your fleet to return home. Silence on the channel. I could practically hear the Kresh commander's calculations weighing pride against survival. This is a trick, he finally said. You cannot possibly have that much firepower. Would you like me to prove it by destroying your fleet? I asked. Because I can do that. It would take approximately 47 seconds. The First Maker systems are very efficient. More silence. Then, grudgingly, we will withdraw. For now. But this is not over, Valkyrian Queen. Yes, it is, Thessara said firmly. Because now you know what you face if you return. And you know we have a chosen one who can activate defenses you can't match. So withdraw, Kresh Commander. Go home. And tell your Dominion that the Valkyrian Empire is protected by forces they cannot overcome. We watched on sensors as the Kresh fleet began to reverse course, slowly at first, then faster as they realized we weren't bluffing. They jumped to quantum drive and vanished. The command center erupted in celebration. Thessara sagged slightly, relief washing over her features. Lysara cheered. Even Verana smiled. And I stood there, marked and transformed and still somehow myself, watching the defense platforms power down to standby mode. Is it always going to be like this? I asked Verana quietly. Threats and invasions and last-minute saves? Probably, she admitted. You're the Guardian now. This is what you do. I looked at my hand, at the mark that had changed my life completely. Then I looked at Thessara, at Lysara, at the Empire I'd somehow become responsible for protecting. I came to fix a device, I said softly. Thessara heard me. She approached, placing one hand on my shoulder, and instead, you fixed an empire. Thank you, Marcus Chen. Thank you for becoming what we needed, even though we gave you no choice in the matter.
I had a choice, I corrected her.
I could have fought the transformation, could have died heroically, but I chose to become the bridge instead. That was my decision. And for everything that comes after? Your Majesty, I said formally. I'm going to need a better title than Chosen One. Maybe something like Chief Maintenance Technician of Ancient Alien Infrastructure. Has a nice ring to it. She actually laughed. I'll have the Council draft something appropriately dignified. And a raise, I added. Definitely a raise. Saving empires should pay better than routine repairs. Done. Though technically you're now bound to the throne for life, so the concept of salary becomes somewhat abstract. On principle. Will you teach me about the First Makers, about the network, about how to bridge things without losing yourself? I looked down at the young heir, at the future queen who would inherit the empire I'd just saved. Yeah, kid, I'll teach you. Someone needs to learn this stuff in case I ever need a vacation. Guardians don't take vacations, Verana said dryly. They do now, I countered. I'm setting a new precedent. Guardians who maintain healthy work-life balance. Revolutionary concept. And in the Palace Command Center, surrounded by aliens who had become something like family, I accepted my new reality. I was Marcus Chen, technician from Mars, chosen, one of the Valkyrian Empire, guardian of First Maker infrastructure, and apparently the Queen's designated bridge between the ancient past and the uncertain future. I had come to fix a device and left as something I'd never imagined becoming. But as I looked at the people around me, at the Empire spread out below the palace, at the stars where countless threats and wonders waited, I realized something important. I was still fixing things. The scale had just gotten a lot bigger, and maybe, just maybe, that was exactly what I'd always been meant to do. The mark pulsed in agreement, warm and steady on my palm, connecting me to systems that spanned the stars, and for the first time since this entire crazy journey had started, I didn't mind at all.